Welcome to Shout It Out, a Glitterband podcast hosted by Warren Paul and Andy Chamberlain. Episode 6, The Star Guitar, Part 2. Our theme is courtesy of Glyn Greenhood and John Springate. Hi Andy.
Hello Warren.
Andy, we're back with Part 2. We thought this would be a single podcast, but we do go on a bit, don't we? At the same time, I reckon this is a good story. It reminds me in parts of the classic music mockumentary, or maybe that should be documentary, Spinal Tap. But as you've described it, the Star Guitar is a glam icon and has inspired quite a few fans to have their own copies made, including yourself.
Oh yeah, I've got one at the moment. I've actually had two made. First one wasn't terribly well made and it broke. Not at Newcastle City Hall.
Or somewhere else.
Yeah,
a Melbourne airport or Sydney airport. Yeah,
I had another one made quite a few years ago, but mine is different. I do tend to try and be different. I had mine painted in black and called it the Dark Star. So
that's you, eh?
Yeah. I've toyed with the idea of respraying it actually to that silver flake. But yeah, putting that aside, there are quite a few out there, and actually it occurs to me that this will be posted on Facebook at some point. Maybe people can post some photos of Star guitars if they might have themselves, or
well, could you start off with your
they
one?
know of?
Because I'd love to see the black one.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, you've been here, you've seen it in person.
Yeah, but no one else has seen it, or a few others have, but not enough.
Yeah, a few have. Yeah. No, okay, no problem. Yeah, but yeah, it would be a good idea just to see some examples of the Star guitars that have been made, copying Jerry's.
Thanks to everyone for their Part 1 feedback, and a special thank you to Lorraine Hammond, who attended quite a few shows at the late 1970s Silver Star Gary Glitter Tour. What was unusual about these shows is that Jerry Shephard wasn't working with Gary at that time. Another guitarist, Brian Godding, played the Silver Star guitar. Lorraine remembers chatting to Brian and fellow guitarist Ollie Halsall at a couple of the gigs. We mentioned that Brian was sacked after falling asleep at a gig early in the tour. A couple of Lorraine's friends were at that show and gave him a lift back to Oxford, where they put him on a train back to London. Now, I should add, we're not making fun at Brian's expense. I suspect he's dined out more than a few times on his Star Guitar adventures, or maybe we should call them misadventures. To quote Brian, "The last time I saw that John Birch Star Guitar was when I slung it in a garbage bin after getting sacked from the band for falling asleep on stage and various other misdemeanours." Andy, Lorraine got in touch with another fan who attended some of the Silver Star gigs.
So in our previous Star Guitar episode, we spoke about how the Star Guitar ended up as a stage prop after Brian had left the tour. And thanks to superfan Steve Morris, I call him an aficionado really, more than a fan I guess, although he is a fan. But we know that Ollie Halsall used the guitar on some songs for the rest of the tour, but it did spend most of its time as a prop at the back of the stage. People will be familiar with Steve's name. Pops up with lots of great information and interesting posts and photos and things. Just for fans generally, you can always trust when he corrects dates and stuff like that. He absolutely is accurate on all the facts and dates and venues and stuff. 100%. Very diligent, very knowledgeable.
As this is part 2 of the Star Guitar story, we might as well play another part 2. This version of Rock and Roll Part 2 was recorded live at the famous Marquee nightclub in London in 1985.
Okay, it's a live recording tonight. So we want lots of noise, okay? Yeah? Great.
While Mike Lander played on the record, the marquee recordings features Jerry Shephard playing Star Guitar Mark II, the silver one, alongside John Springate, Pete Phipps and Eddie Spence on keyboards. Andy, you're at a lot of Glitter Band gigs around that time. You might have been at this one. Could Jerry have simplified the song, or the way he played the song at the show, as he knew it was being recorded that night?
Simplified it?
Yeah.
In what way do you mean?
Well, what I mean is I've got a couple of recordings. We've got that Cricketers gig that we've played a few tracks off, and I think I've got another one of those. And he seems to just play around a bit. He adds a few extra sort of licks and things like that. You know, he seems to.
Yeah, so you're saying he's more disciplined on that recording? Yeah.
Yes,
right.
I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
After we completed our last Star Guitar podcast, something piqued your memory, Andy. We've spoken at length about the silver and gold guitars. Is there something you'd like to add?
Oh, just that we know from some photos that there was a quite what I would call an unusual guitar used on top of the pops and stuff. I don't know about live. It's basically a white guitar with about 4 or 5 pickups on it, which is quite over the top, and a few extra buttons and switches. It's got some glitter stickers stuck to it or something, but it's not star-shaped.
I had never seen that guitar before until you showed me that picture the other week. I was quite surprised.
Yeah, it is quite an outstanding looking guitar in a way, if you really look at it in detail. It looks quite a monster, really.
It does look like a monster.
Yeah. So in some ways, that probably to an onlooker might make somebody think, "Oh, that's what that guitar sound is. It's got a special guitar with 4 pickups, or 5
it draws
pickups."
your
eye. So you can see why it was used on stage for that purpose.
I'm not sure whether it may have been used on stage because I haven't got the dates here, but I'm just thinking maybe it could have been. Well, it appears that now the first Top of the Pops appearance was with Gary. It was made by Mike Lander, wasn't it? He was there on guitar, and then it was Jerry. I just think that the Gold Star guitar must have come along very early because I've never seen the one we're talking about in any live shot. So maybe it was just used for 1 or maybe 2 Top of the Pops appearances. I mean, let's ask. I mean, maybe there's someone out there who saw it being used live.
Or has other photos. Steve? Lorraine? I don't know. But maybe there are some other photos that go along. Now, interestingly enough, I'm sure I discovered some black and white photographs of what I thought was something like Top of the Pops earlier than that appearance with that guitar. So,
what, a different set? Did it look like it was a different set?
Yeah,
that's what distinguishes the episode.
So, but they're very clean shots. So, but it looks as though they may have been taken from a video. So maybe that video of an earlier performance is out there somewhere. But it's not.
Maybe Mike used it on the first performance.
Yeah, but this one I'm talking about has Jerry.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is maybe Mike used the same guitar on his sole Top of the Pops performance.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, it's not star guitar, but it's just an interesting point that they were still obviously trying to convey something grander about the star guitar sound just by using that guitar, in my opinion. And the guitar is have we said it's a Watkins Rapier 44? If anybody wants to look it up, there's a few different models, a 33 and a 55 and stuff.
Thanks to Patrick Don't for providing information about the pre-Star guitar, the Watkins Rapier. The Star guitar story isn't just about the look. There's also the sound. There have been many musicians, including well-known guitarists, who haven't been able to quite work out how the sound was achieved. In our last episode, Andy, you unlocked the mystery of the Star guitar sound. Would you mind giving another brief explanation?
Okay, so essentially a standard set of strings would be first string would be tuned to A, second E. Sorry, second string would be tuned to A, then D, G, B, E. The straightforward tuning of the guitar is literally A on every single string. Now, when Jerry first talked to me about it, I actually set it up as an A chord. So, if anybody plays guitar, you put your finger on 3 strings, and it, the complementary notes make
They're
what's called
different
an A
notes,
chord.
aren't they, when
So
you
I
do it
tuned
like
those.
Right.
Yeah. So I tuned them to the notes it would make when you put your finger on those 3 frets, and it sounded all right, but I just couldn't. Wasn't happy. I saw him the next time. He said,
Why'd you do that?
well, yeah. He said, yeah, yes, something like that. Yeah. Each one A. He said, okay, got it.
One person who's done some research into alternate guitar tunings, which includes the star guitar tuning, is George Howlett. He's come with an early record by an artist who went on to record this song.
Holly came from Miami, FLA. Hitchhiked away across USA. Plucked her eyebrows on the way. Shaved her legs and then he was a she. She says, hey babe, take a walk.
And it's B-side, which might be even more well-known than the A-side.
Oh, it's such a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with.
Those clips we just played, literally just to basically introduce the fact that we're going to be talking about Lou Reed here, because those are Lou Reed songs, as pretty much everybody will know, I'm sure. But about 10 years before Lou Reed rose to prominence with Walk on the Wild Side, he was doing something far more mundane. He was working in-house for budget record label Pickwick Records, and he was churning out cheap singles for the supermarkets and service stations, including this one.
Okay, I want everybody to settle down now. We got some new we're gonna show you, man. It's gonna knock you dead when we come upside your head. You get ready? You said here we go, yeah. All right, come on. Come on. Come on, let's go. Yeah. All right. Everybody get down on your face, man. Get ready, yeah. Okay, come on. Hey, put your hands up. Upside your knees, that music off. Yeah, yeah.
That's The Ostrich by the Primitives, which was Lou, who went on to be the coolest man in rock and roll, Andy,
Yeah.
and Friends. This 1964 track was the send-up of dance records, which were a bit of a craze at the time, including Chubby Checker's The Twist. In 2004, Lou had a bit more to say about the record.
Yeah, so he's quoted as saying, I'd taken a guitar and tuned all the strings to the same note. I did that because I saw this guy, Jerry Vance, a Pickwick staffer, do that. Not an advanced avant-garde guy, he was just screwing around, and he didn't realise what he'd had. But I did, and I took that and made it into the Ostrich.
It appears the Ostrich sold only a few copies. Andy, can you hear a connection to Mike's work about 10 years later? Because to my ear, they seem to be separate lineages.
Yeah, no, I don't see a huge connection, but it wouldn't be on the realms of rumouring and background knowledge that some musicians might cheat and tune guitar that way. By that time you've got so many different varieties of tuning, dropping certain string notes and what have you. Mike Leander was a record producer, arranger, musicians that he maybe was somewhat aware of that. Maybe Gary was. I don't know.
But it seems to be a bit of a cheap throwaway single, though, doesn't it?
In itself, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's quite hypnotic, and obviously it's ripping
Well,
off
it's
the "Then She Kissed Me"
Oh, yeah,
riff.
it's a complete knockoff of the riff, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are a couple of other tracks that we're not going to play, but you may want to have a listen and make up your own mind as to whether they whether there's a relationship between them and the Mike Leander star guitar sound. One is Throbbing Gristle. You heard of Throbbing Gristle, Andy?
I have, yeah. Yeah.
And the other one is a PJ Harvey track. It's Good Night. And the story came from Joe Gore, who was PJ's live guitarist when this track was part of a live set. And he spoke about learning the tuning from PJ, who in turn had been shown it from one of her roadies who'd worked with Gary. So there's a couple of tracks that you might want to seek out. Let's move on, though, to some songs that show off the Star guitar sound that most people would be more familiar with. We've tried not to use more obvious glitter band and related tracks, but Andy, we've got to play this one.
Yep.
Angel Face features the unmistakable Mike Leander production elements, chants, hand claps, star guitar, etc., but everything seems to be a bit bigger. Maybe that applies to the star guitar more than anything else?
Yeah. I think obviously it's slightly different rhythm with the snare drum beat going on, but it's solid, so it's an extension of that sound.
I guess he was pushing the two drummer idea with that.
Yeah. The song was obviously written by Joe Shephard and John Rossell of the band, so it's bound to have a slightly different feel to it than Mike Leander and Gigi composed record. But this is where the Glitter Band took off, and there's quite a lot to discuss about the star guitar sound in the Glitter Band records, I think.
If a guitarist was trying to work out the tuning, this track, You Know You Should Be Glad, would be a good place to start. The track is obviously unfinished, there's no sax, quite a few rough edits. John Russell spoke about lobbying Dick Lay, the head of Bell Records, for Let's Get Together Again to be released as a third Glitter Band single, in preference to the track Do You Remember, apparently to Mike Leander's chagrin. You Know You Should Be Glad was published around the same time as those other two tracks, so it appears there may have been a third contender. A Gary Glitter record, that's Mike Leander playing star guitar on Oh Yes You Beautiful. We've included this one because it seems to be a bit different. The first few bars feature a conventional star guitar part, but then Mike introduces a second star guitar which plays the same melody as the saxophones. Something a bit different. I reckon it works well, Andy.
Yeah, it's interesting because I listened to it on headphones just then, and I could hear the stereo balance, which obviously gone over my head previously, but I was sort of thinking, I might pick out the left-hand side and just have a listen to that that guitar a bit more, because I'm that sort of person.
Oh, so am I.
Yeah, it's interesting for me. I don't know about anybody else. I'd like to hear the way that the slide guitar, star guitar sound is used more and more, should we say, artistically and sonically, as we're going to go into later albums and stuff. And some of the tracks, I think, in this episode, you're going to hear it, becoming much more tuneful and more mastery, should we say.
Maybe including this one. Now Now, this track is a bit of a rarity because it's Jerry Shephard playing guitar on a Gary Glitter record. But Love Like You and Me was composed by Jerry, along with Gary and Mike, so maybe it's not surprising that he played the guitar parts.
Oh.
Jerry has said that Mike's contribution was just a few lyric changes, and I guess Gary probably also came up with a handful or two of the words, so it seems this song was mostly written by Jerry. I'm going off track, and we all know Gary's an easy target, but I reckon this song, which I do like, would have been even better with John Springer on vocals.
Yeah.
Back to the star guitar. Not dissimilar to some of Jerry's work on Glitter Band recordings around this time, I guess.
No, starting to become much more harmonic and well, have you obviously different guitar, maybe different amps and stuff like that. Maybe sort of evolution of some of the effects on the amps, or maybe even pedals and stuff. But
it's a bit smoother, a bit less distorted.
Yeah. It sounds great to me.
Very different star guitar to that on You Know Should Be Glad, which was only from a few months earlier. I'd love to talk more about this song, but we'll cover it in depth in one of our upcoming Rock and Roll Dudes podcasts.
Boo.
The melodies seem to be getting stronger.
Talk about it now. Go on.
We can't, Andy. We can't. Andy,
No,
we can't have a 3-hour podcast.
No.
You know, we're on to part 2, aren't we? This was going to be a short podcast, wasn't it? We're now on to part 2.
God,
So.
tell me about it.
The melodies seem to be getting stronger, but the star guitar still has its part to play.
Yes. No sax on that, interestingly enough, either. Much more full.
I think is there a little bit in the intro? Just a little bit of sax?
Actually, yeah, you might be right. Maybe there's a couple of little accents here and there. Yeah, you're probably right. Yes. I beg your pardon, yeah. I mean, obviously consoles and stuff are improving, so, and maybe tape facilities as well, getting a better sound out of it. But Jerry's playing and ideas, are very, very pleasing.
Maybe Jerry was trying to move away a bit from Mike's standard sound. Who would have thought star guitar tuning would have been used to play the main hook of a song such as this? I reckon it works beautifully. Another one of my favourites that I'd like to talk more about, but like For Always Never, I'll have to wait until we cover its parent album. In this case, listen to the band.
I wanted to go boo then. Let's talk about it now. Yeah, but we'll move on. So another really interesting song to listen to is the one coming up right now.
That's the first audio clip in this series of podcasts we have heard Gary Glitter. There will be more when the record helps tell the story of the Glitter Band. Gary Glitter has been convicted of crimes against people, specifically children, on multiple occasions. The crimes were serious and he served time in jail, also on multiple occasions. At the time of this podcast being recorded, he is in prison. There will be many people listening who've had positive interactions with Gary, including myself, but it's clear that at times he has behaved appallingly in his private life and people have been damaged. Badly. If we were to pretend he didn't exist, we would be doing a disservice to all Glitter Band members and others involved in his career, particularly the person who produced the Glitter Band records and has been referred to as their 7th member, the late Mike Leander. Back to You Belong to Me. I'm not sure if Mike made a better Gary Glitter record than this one, but could this be the sole Glitter Leander composed single where he needed some help with the guitar parts?
Oh, certainly. It sounds much better for Jerry playing on it, enormously.
I think you indicated a little earlier that you thought it was Jerry Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it could be a couple of the power chords that Mike playing, but certainly Jerry's the rest of it. Now, going from what I think is a really catchy single, we're going to go right now into what I think is probably, in my opinion, the Glitter Band's catchiest single.
You believed it, I believed it too. The man that once had promised rain upon the chosen few has now denied the powers he had promised in the past, has now become the victim of the spells he used to cast. We have visions in our heads.
Andy, I agree with you about this single. I thought it's a terrific song, and I think the record's maybe even better. And I don't understand why it flopped as a single, but it did, and it
Sadly.
followed. Sadly, yeah. And what's interesting is the
Too
record-
country.
Yeah, but it is a bit country. But I think what Mike's done with the production is clever, because if you listen to the way Springy's done the vocal and the general sound of the record,
Disco country.
yeah,
Disco
it's not
country
that-
pop.
Yeah, but it's not. I just think it works in terms of the sound as a follow-up to people like you. I don't
Yeah, it
think
does,
it's gone too far. He could have gone too far, but he hasn't. But anyway, that's all inconsequential because it flopped, I guess.
Well, incidentally, I've always thought
Yep.
if Lay Your Love on Me had come after people like you, and then we'd had Daybreak Promises, they might have worked as sequential
Oh,
singles.
really?
But that's just my.
Yeah.
Somebody else will think I'm wrong and shoot me out of the water for saying that, but it's just something I'd always thought.
You got me thinking about that, but that's for another podcast, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, people like you and me, that was the first Glitter Band single not to feature star guitar.
Mm-hmm.
But it does make a reappearance.
Yeah, go on then.
I think it is, isn't it? Just
Goodbye,
going
My
through
Love probably did have it, and then
There's
Tears
a
I
little
Cried.
bit-
Yeah.
Yeah. But the star guitar makes a reappearance on this track. Though it's generally
And
noted-
Haze as well, by the way. There's 3 Haze on it as well, hidden in the track.
You've mentioned that. Now,
But
will
we'll
cover
come back to that another time.
we will cover that to another time because you'll be able to discover that. I want to hear those, right? But yeah, another time. The track's generally noted for Jerry's banjo contributions, but the star guitar is also present. Leading question, Andy. Is there a mix of this song kicking around where the star guitar is a little more prominent?
Oh yes. You were talking about the mixes I did some years ago of it. You're separate? Yes, yeah. Yes, okay. Your answer to your question is yes, there are. They've been on YouTube for quite a while. A bit annoyingly, it was made clear that they weren't original mixes from the 70s, and somebody tried to post them on YouTube and stuff as they were mixes from the 70s, which they weren't. And I don't like misinformation like that, to be honest with you. And how they actually got hold of the tracks was a bit of a mystery. I think I worked that out.
Are there 2 mixes you did?
Yeah. There's one where the piano's more prominent. Did some Tears I Cried mixes and stuff as well.
Let's jump forward a few years to the next song, which was written and recorded in early 1981, shortly before John Springate joined Jerry Shephard, Tony Leonard and some new members in reforming the Glitter Band, initially backing Gary on his live performances. Until the Next Time also features John Rossell, who co-wrote the song with Eddie Seago and Jerry Shephard.
Until the next time. Until the next time. We had fun. We had the sun.
Right record, but maybe the wrong time. I love Jerry's guitar parts on this song.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, again, a good, very catchy song. I think it's documented that this is probably the first time the actual Silver Star guitar, obviously Jerry now got his hands back on it, it's the first time it actually been used on a record. Certainly one of the rarest occasions that it would actually make it onto a record rather than the Gibson SG. And it sounds really good. Very welcome to have that track released at the time. Didn't obviously make a splash, unfortunately, but I enjoy it.
And it seems to be very popular amongst fans, doesn't it? I mean, that's one that...
Yeah, I don't know if this is worth mentioning, but just talking about the song itself, also I used to have a tape in the car, and I had some young people in the car was giving a lift somewhere, and one of them was singing it by the end of the journey, and I was just like, what? Because the tape, you play it and it comes around again.
Yeah.
At the end of the joint, and they was singing it. I thought, well, that's a test of how catchy it is. Right, got off the point completely.
But I suppose, again, Andy, it was, right record, wrong time, I guess.
Yeah, but it was of an era almost in its identity, and yet this young person was well out of the age group for that, and they found it a very catchy song nonetheless.
I reckon it would have been a huge hit in the mid-70s, that song.
Yeah.
Maybe not the next one. This comes from the same sessions as Until the Next Time, and it also features John Rossall, Tony Leonard and Jerry Shephard. I'm not sure who played piano. Warning, if you've never heard this song before, it might come as a shock. It's a demo, which means it was never intended to be released. There were quite a few songs that were demoed at this time, including a few that John Rossall and Eddie Seago wrote as potential Eurovision entries. This one's different. It sounds to me like it's a Jerry Shephard composition. Look, at the time, it was the first unreleased Glitter Band related song I heard, and I think I was in shock, and I didn't like it. But many years later, I like it a lot. But that's not why we're playing it. It's because Jerry chose to use star guitar on what seems to be a very un-Glitter Band song. What do you reckon, Andy?
Yeah, not a song that I particularly like. I mean, I quite listening to guitar on it, obviously, which is quite useful as we're talking about the star guitar sound in this podcast. But to me, it's more of a track, like a track off of the Put Your Money Where Your Mouth Is album, really. But yeah, just interesting that you chose to use the guitar on such a track.
And you have said exactly what I was going to say, so we'll go on to the next segment. There isn't a lot of Glitter Band members' solo material featuring star guitar, but we found a few. The first couple are from a CD featuring tracks that John Springate and Jerry Shephard composed and recorded around the time of the successful UK Eurovision entry, Don't Play That Song. There are two recordings that feature star guitar. Unlike most of the tracks on that album, One More Time With Feeling, I think, may have been written and recorded independently by John Springate specifically for the album. Here's the title track.
I will never need a reason to tell you once again. You're the one that makes me feel.
John Springate on star guitar, maybe, Andy? He's proved himself to be a dab star guitar hand. Just listen to his work on our theme.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he does play guitar. Played guitar on his album stuff and what have you, John. Funnily enough, when he was doing his glam rock reviews and stuff years ago, he was doing a version of Rock and Roll, and he's got, and I said, "Oh, did you sample that?" And I think he just shut me up, agreed with me that's what he'd done, but clearly he'd obviously, I'm sure, played the slide guitar on those particular tracks.
From the same CD, here's Stay in My Life. This track is Jerry alone, and I'd hoped that he had plans to eventually release it. John Springate thought highly enough of the song to do his own version on the same CD. If I was a musician, I'd do my own version. I love this song, and there's lots of star guitar on Jerry's version, Andy.
Yes, yeah. It's a nice song, yeah. Very nice. Yeah. And interesting again that he chose to use the star guitar in it. Or the star guitar sound, yeah.
The next song is from the Glitter Band's original band leader John Russell's album from only a few years ago, The Last Claim in Town. It's my favourite track off the album, Get Go Girl. To my ear, that sounds like star guitar tuning, but as you've pointed out, quite a few tracks on this album resemble star guitar, but it's not star guitar.
No, I mean, it could be somebody's tuned up for one of the tracks or so, but generally I'd say just sounds similar, but it's not.
It's interesting that it's mixed. Notice how the sax has been used on that song.
I didn't, but yeah, I guess.
Yeah. No, look, I'll play you the head again. It's a bit like Mike's early productions. Just have another listen, just to the first few bars, right? Here it comes.
Yeah, just some hoots of yeah.
Another star guitar player who rarely gets mentioned and should is Gary Glitter's longtime musical director from the late 80s onwards, Mark Pearson. I was fortunate to meet Mark a couple of times. I know it's a cliche, but you couldn't meet a nicer bloke, and I reckon he took to the star guitar with relish.
Yeah, he took it on admirably, really. I mean, maybe we'll listen to a track and then I'll say some more about it, just my opinion on the sound. But let's play the GG track, Ready to Rock, which Mark played on and wrote. So yeah, clearly it is the slide guitar sound that he's reproducing. The only thing I always thought was when Mark played it, it was more boxy, just whereas Jerry playing it would be
not quite as choppy or bright, is it?
I can't believe I've just done that. Yeah, just maybe a chorus added or something like that. Just a little bit more boxy in tone. I can't really work out whether he added another type of effect to it, but
did he use a little less distortion?
Not necessarily less. I mean,
different.
Maybe. I mean, you can get a bit of difference from having overdrive instead of distortion, I guess. But I just wonder whether he maybe added a bit of chorus or something to fatten it out. But it was more of a sound rather than a sound.
So let's go straight into another example of Mark playing the star guitar, and this one's live. Well, that sounds different to me, so I guess that's what you're talking about, Andy.
Oh, you can hear it. It is different, yeah.
It does sound different.
Yeah, so same tuning and everything and distortion applied, but just a little bit of those stupid noises that I made, just trying to relate to people what I hear as the difference.
There have been a variety of guitarists who've played live with Glitter Band members over the years. One who we must mention is this person.
So, Glitterband fans who are up to date will hopefully recognise that that track was taken from the album called Haymaking, which was the recording of a live rehearsal when John Springate came back into the band in about 2010, 2009. Now the main guitar you can hear on that sounds, very authentic Star guitar-like is played by Dominic Rogers, who's been with the band for about 20, 21 years now. Not to be confused, because some people didn't understand this some years back. A guy called Mark Pearson, not the guy who used to play with Gary's band, he had a Star guitar. He was a left-handed player, but he didn't play the Star guitar sound. He just played pretty much rhythm guitar.
Oh, yeah.
So during all of that time, Dominic has tried to reproduce and faithfully reproduced, worked really hard at getting the slide guitar sound, the Star guitar sound that Jerry would convey. And he has worked really hard at it with tech and practice and stuff. And it does sound, very comparable to Jerry's playing.
Yeah, I like the piece we just played, which seems to be influenced by what Jerry played at the end of Angel Face, but it's also a bit different.
Yeah, it's slightly more strumming. Jerry would let things sustain a bit longer, but Dominic's just playing a few more strokes to get that. But it's fine. Nobody would notice. Good job, I'd say.
Here's another track from the same session.
You're my inspiration, you're my heart's desire. You really done a rock and set my soul on fire. Now I'm gonna spend my life rocking and rolling in your bed.
We're finishing with a few songs by other artists that may or not feature Star guitar tuning, but at the least appear to have been influenced by it. I think everyone will recognise this song, but maybe not this version.
Står du i telefon, står där nästan som ett hån. Inte ringer du och säger älskling du som gjorde. Allting är så tyst mot förr. Ingen knackar på min dörr.
I don't think we need to mention the name of the act or the language, Andy.
No, it's interesting you didn't play the English language version. No. Well done.
Something. But what I'm talking about is it's even to my ear, I can hear that's not Star guitar tuning, but maybe the melody, the way it's played on that guitar, could also be played on Star guitar. Maybe that influenced the way it was played.
Yeah, homage in some way, yeah.
If you've seen the video clip for the song, you'd notice that Bjorn is wielding a familiar-looking guitar. That guitar made its debut at Brighton during Eurovision in April '74 on the winning entry Waterloo, and we got a story about that. Both John Rossell and John Springate recall meeting ABBA after the Glitter Band backed Gary in Stockholm a couple of months earlier. Bjorn commissioned the ABBA Star guitar, and I wonder if that was the day after the show.
Yeah, I think it certainly made an impression on them, clothing-wise, and the guitar. And you picked that song out because of the riff at the beginning, and maybe that was just their little nod to it.
We've spoken about pitch shifting in previous podcasts, haven't we, Andy?
Oh, yeah.
And don't worry, this will be the only time in this one. But how would Les Gray have gone singing this track live?
It would not have sounded the same.
No.
No.
What about the guitars?
Yeah, slightly different guitar there, isn't it? So you're postulating that
Yeah, I
it's a
think there are
tune.
two. I think at the start of the song, I reckon there are two guitars, and I think one may be, I think one's conventional, but I
Right.
think one may be star guitar tuning. And interesting mud fact, when they played this song live, in the middle of the song, they went into rock and roll.
Oh, really?
They did, yeah. Then
That's
back
interesting.
into back into the song again.
Hmm.
Here's another one.
Time flies, time crawls like a lynx up and down the wall. Light pours out of me.
That's The Light Pours Out of Me by Magazine. I've just discovered this song. If you like the snippet you've just heard, I reckon it's worth seeking out the complete track. If Mike Leander heard this one for the first time, he would have recognised the riff and maybe the attempted star guitar tuning.
Yeah, I think the influence is there. Style guitar tuning, maybe not.
And the melody at the start's a bit sort
The
of
melody,
rock and
yeah.
rollish, isn't it?
Yeah, it reminds me. Have you heard "Big New Prince" by The Fall? Big New
No.
Priest as well by The Fall.
No.
Look that up because he was very influenced by the glitter sound. It's quoted as saying one of the most important movements in music. I'm over quoting it, but how very much importance there was in the glitter sound. But yeah, look up Big New Prince by The Fall. I think it's also another version called Big New Prince by The Fall, which is the same song but just change of one word. Interested to see what you and people think of that.
This next track is by a band I've never heard of until you pointed me in their direction a couple of years ago. Though I recognise a couple of their songs, I would have loved to be in the UK in the late 70s, early 80s.
So now you know the message comes on strong. It's the end, but it took too long. You should have known by now, and now you find out you were the last one to know. And we told you so.
So the track you've chosen to play there is The Last One to Know by the Revillos, which I think,
Love this song, love it.
and you hadn't heard it, had you?
No,
I suppose-
no, I hadn't heard it.
Yeah. So we're definitely trying to do it. Go on.
or their version of Tell Him, which you mentioned.
Yeah, which is an absolute, homage to the Glitter Band's version, 100%. And this is intended to be in the style of the Glitter Band, and guitar sounds, pretty close to the star guitar, even if they didn't use the actual tuning itself.
What I find really interesting is that so many people, guitarists, used to go up to Jerry Shephard and say, "How do you get that sound?"
Yeah.
We didn't plan to do these two podcasts, did we, Andy?
No, not at all.
A few weeks ago, we were trying to organise a different podcast, and you suggested that, this is just cracking me up. In the meantime, we come up with something a little shorter. Has that worked?
Like heck yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But I think we've both enjoyed putting the Star Guitar story together. It's been revealing, and there are some great Spinal Tap moments in there, particularly in the first episode. There's some really funny bits. But the good thing is the Star Guitar is still safe. It's still in existence, so it's a great end to the story. It's been good fun. We're finishing with 3 tracks. The first 2 are Starman and Come On Feel the Noise from Wham Bam Thank You Glam. That's a mouthful. A CD that John Springate produced in the mid-90s, the concept being glam artists covering other glam artists. There are a couple of Gary Glitter re-recordings the record company added. They have nothing to do with John. The CD is hard to find. It doesn't appear on streaming services, so if you can find a copy, buy it. Andy, Starman and Come On and Feel the Noise are followed by a live clip that you've recently dug up.
Yeah, for me, Come On Feel the Noise is, I mean, obviously, it's not on a Glitter Band album per se or anything like that, but it's an absolute epitome of the strength of the Star Guitar sound, honestly. And obviously, it's been produced to its maximum to get the sound out that Jerry played, but it's almost like the epitome for me of the Star Guitar on record. The Starman is obviously good as well.
I prefer Jerry's playing on Starman to Mick Ronson's
Okay.
on the original.
Yes, yeah, me too. Yeah,
We
would say that, wouldn't
That
we?
won't get us in much, but I do.
That'll
I
pee off
compare
a few people.
Oh yeah, that'll get us in trouble. But you've just got to be honest. You know what I mean? I mean, and Jerry had the opportunity, yes, years later, of listening to the Mick Ronson version, but I think what he's done is better. And I also reckon Mick Ronson was possibly influenced by Mike Leander's early guitar work when that song was put out. And I'm not sure of that because I think Starman may have been recorded or put out before rock and roll. So I might have egg on my face over that.
Yeah, I think so. But the third bit of clip is something I just picked out. I think hopefully people will find it as much a treat as I do, showcasing Jerry's playing of the Star Guitar. I won't say any more. We'll just let it speak for itself.
Well, it's so unusual to hear a Star Guitar solo, isn't it? When you brought it to my attention, I listened to it and thought, wow. Oh dear, I've got the date for Starman, by the way. 28th of April 1972. I got that wrong. But
I was going to say 72, 73.
But what's interesting, Andy, is that when that was released, but Rock and Roll was released at the start of March and was being played at clubs. So Rock and Roll was around. It wasn't a hit, but it was around for almost 2 months before Starman was released. So anyway, it is possible that it would be more likely David Bowie. It is possible that David Bowie may have heard Rock and Roll Parts 1 and 2 and then gone off and done Starman, but that is nothing more than totally uninformed speculation. So should we just play the songs and finish, do you think?
Yeah. We've spent enough of people's time, I think.
We have. Hey, Andy, thanks for that. It's been look, this has been really good fun, hasn't it?
Yeah, I have enjoyed it, and I'm sorry about some of the noises and stuff that I made earlier and waffling, but yeah, hopefully somebody else has enjoyed the discussion and the information that we've had and thoughts on it.